everybody, what's up and welcome to my channel. So today I'm doing like a very different type of video. I'm going to be talking about awkward / embarrassing job interview moments, hence why I'm dressed like this. And my very first YouTube video I did awkward, embarrassing like hijab moments, and so this time I'm just gonna do job interview moments, and that is my cat right there. I'm gonna be telling you 3 or 4 different stories. I haven't decided yet, and I may or may not make this into a series. Also, one thing to note is that I'm not going to be saying the name of the companies or anything like that, because that's not really relevant to any of my stories. I'm basically telling you what not to do in a job interview. This video does consist of moments where I've done some embarrassing stuff and moments where a recruiter has done some embarrassing stuff. Okay, so the very first instance that like pops into my head was actually a couple years ago. It was about 2 years from today. Well, not today, but around this time period. I was interviewing for multiple different fields because it was like internship season, it was recruiting season, and so I went into this one job interview, and I remember I said something very crazy. Like, I was super duper nervous and I didn't want to say the wrong things, and I remember one of the questions of that job interview was like, what is like a good quality about yourself? And my answer to that was, oh, I'm very like open-minded. And so I am an anthropology minor. I like majored in business and I minored in anthropology. So I decided to tell her about that because, you know, as an anthropology minor, you learn about so many different types of cultures, and there's so many like cultures and situations around the world where their practices and rituals are very taboo to people of the West. So I decided to tell her about the Yanomami tribe, which, if you know about the Yanomami tribe, they have a very, very interesting way of celebrating someone passing away. So basically, in their culture, and this is what I told her, just keep in mind, this is a job interview, this is what I told her. I was like, well, in their culture, they don't believe in burying the dead. So they believe in a way to celebrate them and keep them into the blood and whatnot. They would cremate them and then put them into a banana soup. And I'm not kidding, she just literally looked at me like, oh, wow, that's so different. The second I said that, I literally just wanted to like bang my head against the wall, because like, who says that in a job interview? As I was telling her the story, I was just like, you know, that is something that they do over there, but you know, that stuff doesn't faze me. I'm very open-minded. Which, like, now that I think about it, I can use so many different examples. Like, I can use examples of me going into a restaurant and trying food from like a different culture or something. Like, I don't need to bring up like cannibalism, but like apparently I did. So yeah, that was one very interesting moment. So another instance where I've done something embarrassing was actually around the same time period as the first interview. I was interviewing for a bunch of companies that my campus was hosting. So this was my university campus. They had like juniors trying to do interviews for big companies for like internship positions. So this next company, as I mentioned, is very big in the business industry, and I was like very, very excited to have this interview. Also on this interview, I was a bit more nervous than the other one because this particular company hosted like a dinner thing the night before, and I didn't go. I think I was working that night, I'm not totally sure. So I decided to just go to the interview instead, and I told them that I had work the night before so they can know that I go to work and I go to school at the same time. So this interview took place at my campus, and my university has affiliates with a lot of different huge corporate companies, so they do have like pictures of other companies in like the interview rooms as well, so it's not just with them. So when I had this interview, one question that was asked was, hey, this is our company core values, and there was like respect, profit, or other words there, and they were like, which one is the most important? And I chose respect. And right from then on, keep in mind, before this, the interview was going great. I had some great answers. Right when this happened, I just like, I don't know what happened, but at that point, I just wanted to like zip my mouth shut because I was just spewing random words. They were like, why is respect important? And instead of being like, oh, well, you know, you're in the business industry, you have to respect yourself, your others, the firm, the clients, whatever, I just like went on about how, I don't know why I said this because this is so embarrassing, but I went on about how I've witnessed business in other places and Americans aren't as respectful. Which, I mean, oh my God, who would say that in a job interview? That is absolutely ridiculous. But that is something that I said, and their faces were just like, oh, really? And they're like writing something down, and I'm just like, oh dear God, why did I say that? I don't know why I thought of it. I guess I did because I was bringing up study abroad, and when I did like business classes in Europe, a lot of Europeans were telling me, oh, you Americans are not as respectful as us. And I don't know, I think it came out of there. I'm not sure, but I was just like, you know, I feel like we could be more respectful, you know. So that was like the first mistake in that interview. The second mistake was even worse. They asked me at the very last question was, hey, like, what are you looking for in a company? And I was just like, well, I'm looking for a place where I can grow, where I can learn, where there is no, you know, like I don't know why I brought up discrimination. Oh yeah, they asked me about discrimination. And this interview happened during my campus, and in my campus there was like posters of other companies and firms. And let's just give an example. Let's say Boeing was, you know, on the poster in the room, and they were just like, hey, you know, have you ever had a situation where somebody discriminated against you because of your gender? And like I said, let's just use Boeing as an example. There was a picture of Boeing up there, and I was just like, well, there was a company that did this kind of discriminate me because of, you know, my gender. And then I looked up at the poster and I was like, oh, this is awkward. The poster for that company is right there. And like these two women, I was facing the poster, they were like facing me, so they couldn't just turn around and look because it would be obvious. But at that moment, I just like kept stuttering. I was like, oh, well, you know, it's weird, their poster is right there. Like, who would say that? Like, who would in their right mind would say something like that? And they just like literally looked at me and was like, okay, we'll give you feedback next week if you know, got the job. And well, they told me during that week that I didn't get the job. But yeah, that was a very embarrassing moment, and I'm too like scared to like apply for this company again because I'm just like, what if they remember me? So the third story happened a couple years ago. I went to this interview for this company, and they were a huge company. It was a car dealership. They were looking for a receptionist position, and so I applied and I did the first round of interviews. The interview went great, and then they asked me to come back for the second interview to interview with the CEO of the company. Now, this company, as I mentioned, was huge, especially in the city that I used to live in. So I used to live in the Midwest, which, if you don't know, the Midwest is very homogeneous. There's not a lot of foreigners there. And so the area that I lived in specifically, it was like all white people, except, you know, there was a huge group of Bosnians, but they also look white, so they kind of like blend in. The second I went in for the second interview, the CEO looked at me, he goes, wow, you wear a headscarf. And I was just like, yeah, I do. And also, one important thing to keep in mind is that this particular company, all of their clients or customers were literally from the same demographic, and they have been going to this particular family for years, for I believe almost like over 20 years, and some of them they even go to the same church together. So he was talking about how as a receptionist he needed to look at my ID, because in the very first interview I had them take a photo of my ID, and he was like, I need to see what the receptionists look like because we don't want any face tattoos or face piercing, but I noticed you wear a scarf. And I was like, yeah, I do wear a scarf. He goes, you know what? People say bad things about you guys all the time. Not all Muslims are bad people. Not all of you go after somebody. And he went on and on and on. And don't get me wrong, I appreciate it at the time because keep in mind, this was kind of like the environment that I sort of grew up in. Everyone was like racist. Like, I would always get negative comments and I almost never received positive ones. It wasn't until that I went to college that I kind of discovered that liberals exist. Like I know this sounds embarrassing, but like that's the kind of community that I grew up in. And where this car dealership was, there was like no liberals and everyone was just like, very blunt and honest about what they had to say. And I like endured it for like a long time because I got used to it. So like when this CEO was just like, oh, not all you guys are bad and stuff like that, I was like, oh, he's sweet. But like looking back, like nobody should talk about religion. That's like the one thing that you don't talk about in job interviews is like religion, a person in the military, a woman, being pregnant. Those are the things that you don't talk about. Like, I get it, like I'm wearing a scarf. It's very obvious, it's right there in front of the room. Anybody can see it, and especially some of these older people who have never seen somebody that looks like me. So I get why he talked about it at the time. However, like he didn't really talk about my skills and what I could bring to the table and what I knew and some of the experiences that I had. So I feel like in a way it was just like a person's like work ethic and stuff like that is a lot more important than what they look like. And again, I understand his concerns and why he was going through that, and I did appreciate his words, but it just got so awkward because all he was talking about was my scar. Even though that particular job interview was very awkward, even though I appreciated it, it did give me a good pretense to the actual job because I ended up getting it, and I had some very not so great moments, and I also had a lot of moments where I had to educate people, and I had customers who would come up to me and ask me if I would ever harm them. Which, I mean, if you're suspecting that someone's gonna harm you, you're not gonna go up to them and ask that. You're gonna be scared and probably call the cops. Especially with the older clients, like they would ask a lot of questions, and some of the questions were so inappropriate, but like that is something that I dealt with. I will add one more story, a very, very quick one. So this particular interview actually happened last year. So last year I went to this tech company to apply for a job, and I got an interview and I was like so excited. And I actually had this interview on tax day, which I thought was very interesting because I was taking a tax class at the time. So I went to this job interview. I was so excited, but at this moment I had went through so many job interviews. I was almost like in a way drained out. I was just like, I just hope I get this job so that I don't have to keep looking, because job hunting is like not the easiest thing in the world, especially while you're still in school. But I went into this tech company and I was like so excited to get this interview. So I didn't know too much about them, so I had to do a lot of research, and I was prepared to give all of my answers. I had so much energy. I think I had coffee that day, and so I went into this interview very excited and ready to give answers. Now, the two guys who were interviewing me looked like they were about to fall asleep. Like, I was sitting there, they were asking me questions, I was answering them, and one of them was like this the whole time. Okay, so tell me more about your school. And the other one was like this. I don't know what was going on, if they were tired or if they had a lot of projects. I mean, it was tax day, so maybe they were doing taxes, but they did not look like they wanted to be there at all. But yeah, after that interview, I was just like, yeah, I'm not gonna get this job, and I didn't. But the good news is I found something better, and it took me like an extra month of job hunting to get there. Nonetheless, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I hope you have a fabulous day.